After 20 years as a professional game developer, I've come to believe that there's a little problem with my industry. There's a very specific way in which video games lack self-awareness. And today, I'm going to tell you why that matters and how it can be fixed. First, a quick caveat. This is the first video of a series where I'm going to be a little bit more critical. Please understand that I have tremendous respect and admiration for the developers of the games I'm going to bitch about. I've tried to stay positive in the past, but there's only so much you can say that way. So please don't get offended if you think I'm attacking something you love. I really don't mean to be disrespectful. And look, I'm dumb. That's kind of what led me to realize the subject of this video, actually. My brain is kind of shit. I have dopamine regulation issues. I have trouble focusing, and often when I try and play a new game, I just don't get it. I don't find most things compelling. But modern game developers aren't making it easy, man. Because of my weird brain, I've come to believe that motivation in video games is usually fucking terrible, and I suspect that most game developers do not understand it for shit. Let's start by taking a look at a really popular example. Elden Ring is, by my weird brain's way of seeing the world, fucking insane. When you start, you're told in many ways to go to Stormveil Castle and seek the Elden Ring. NPCs tell you to do it explicitly, and there are even golden trails of light pointing you there. If you go, however, you'll get destroyed by Margit, possibly the hardest opening boss in the history of video games. The design goal here is pretty clear, right? Players will bounce off Margit and then wander off, explore, and level up. In other words, players are now expected to enter an open, non-directed exploratory phase, which directly contradicts the established motivation of the game. That is fucking crazy, and there's a technical reason why it's crazy. As I outlined in this video, humans move through the world inside what are called motivational frames. This allows your brain to filter information on a pre-conscious level. For example, if you're trying to exit a room, you will not notice a random chair in the far corner. However, you will notice a chair that's blocking your way to the exit. In other words, having a goal is what allows you to see and experience the world. It provides the needed context through which all perception exists. You can't have perception without a goal. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Elden Ring establishes an identity as a tarnished, whatever the fuck that is, who must seek the Elden Ring, and then instead makes you wander the world, not seeking the Elden Ring, but rather curiously poking around, I guess, encountering bands of demi-humans or dragons and swamps or fucking whatever, all of which is completely irrelevant to the established motive. That's because the established motive is bullshit and has no bearing on how the game was meant to be played. Whatever mindset you need to be in to enjoy Elden Ring is not stated. You either get it or you don't. Because I'm an odd person and generally don't understand how to enjoy games, I end up thinking about this a lot. And eventually, I usually will figure out how to enjoy a given game. For example, as far as I can tell, to enjoy Elden Ring, your motivation should be outside the fourth wall. That is, you're not role-playing as a tarnished, your motivation is something that you bring to the game as a player. First, to engage with the progression systems and gameplay mechanics, but more broadly, I think the key is to view the game as if you were in an art gallery. To wander the beautiful landscapes and enjoy the many little vignettes you will encounter, and enjoy them as if they were disconnected from one another, just like you would if you were wandering an art gallery. Engaged in this way, demi-humans and dragons and swamps are interesting. Elden Ring, it turns out, is loaded with little vignettes that are rich and beautiful, and those vignettes will slowly begin to reveal connections on a larger context. But this way of seeing is something that you have to bring to the game from outside the fourth wall. If you try to accept the motivation that Elden Ring provides for you, you will not be able to perceive this value. I believe that if you're trying to actually role-play in this role-playing game, you will bounce off it. That is fucking crazy to me. However, ironically, I believe the reason that Elden Ring connected with people is that it more or less matched how apparently most people play RPGs, which I assume is this. Where are the bad guys? There are the bad guys. I will kill the bad guys. I will then get stronger. I will then kill bigger bad guys. I will then win. As far as I can tell, most video games are propped up with these sorts of genre-based expectations. In this way, developers are in a long conversation with consumers. Consumers know how to play the games that we know how to make. And in my opinion, that allows us to be sloppy. The thing is, I see no reason why Elden Ring or any other game can't provide a motivation that is simple, clear, and provides a way to perceive its content as meaningful. To prove my point, here's a mediocre one off the top of my head. When meeting Milena, she could say this: "Tarnished, you are, as yet, weak. If you are to become Elden Lord, you must draw strength from this world. Explore it, know it, come to master it. Take the strength from its fallen denizens. A lord must know his subjects." That isn't perfect, but it would point the player at the main source of fun, which is, this world is filled with weird shit. Go explore it and get stronger in the process. Look, I'm not asking for hand-holding here. If you want me to wander independently, fine. Just fucking tell me that. Create a motivation where that makes sense. That's all. Now, if you enjoyed Elden Ring, it might seem to you that I'm overanalyzing or restating the obvious. But remember what I said at the start of this video about me having a weird brain. Look, if you feel that way, it's because you had a set of assumptions that seemed obvious to you that you brought to the game that happened to work. But that only works for games that you already know how to play. This is why I believe this is the most important issue in game development. If, as developers, we cannot understand where the fun is in our game and lead players into it without relying on their expectations, how the fuck are we supposed to make anything new? If our games don't match expectations, people won't know how to play them. Let me give you a funny example. In our first game, The Fall, you basically explore the world, read points of interest, and, having understood what you read, create theories about where to go and what to do. You then test those theories and make progress. I made this game before I understood what I'm outlining in this video, and when we started playtesting, we had some pretty amazing results. We discovered that there was a certain percentage of players, particularly ones that believed they were good at video games, whatever the fuck that means, that would basically run through our environments, highlighting all the points of interest while hammering the use button, but without actually reading anything. I believe what these players were trying to do was basically win the game by shooting all of the targets. It never even occurred to them that our game might not work that way. But then again, we never told them. To me, it seems insanely stupid that you would just pick up a game and expect to know where the fun is. Like, how could you know that? You haven't played it before. Well, the answer to that question is simple. Players can actually do that if our industry is incredibly derivative. So once again, how could we possibly make new kinds of experiences without getting better at telling players where the fun is? See, this is why I'm a bitter, cranky fuck about this. It's not just that my brain is a little different. I'm 40 now. I've played a lot of games, and if you do that, you're going to find that there's a lot that you just don't understand because it doesn't fit into the grooves that already exist in your brain. You don't know how to enjoy those games. So, it makes sense to set aside my expectations and be open to each new experience. And that's why I've become frustrated and why I had the experience I had with Elden Ring. See, I think I'm actually the one being open-minded here. Developers, I'm trying to be open-minded to how you want me to play your game, but you can't fucking tell me because you don't know. Anyway, so the big question is, how is this done, right? Well, in my opinion, the only possible way to do this must center around making sure that the motivation that the player is given creates a perceptual frame that includes whatever the value of the game is. My suggestion for Elden Ring was meant to solve this, but let me give you a better example. In Subnautica, you are stranded in an endless ocean, vulnerably suspended above a terrifying abyss containing God knows what. If you want to survive, you will have to descend into deeper and deeper depths in order to gather resources. You eventually learn that to escape the planet, you will have to descend into the very bottom of the abyss to solve a compelling mystery. Consider this. If you accept that motivation, you have a way of relating to, that is, seeing and perceiving, literally everything in the game. The motivation is a lens through which everything can be looked at. Can this thing help me survive? Is this thing a threat? I think this might be the main reason why survival games generally are successful. They're experiences that are easy for people to understand. The reason why solving this issue has to revolve around player motivation is because games are about doing. What am I doing when I'm playing this game? Surviving? Cool. Everyone understands that. They know how to do it. See, I'm being a bit of a dickhead here, but the truth is, this stuff is really fucking hard to do. In the case of The Fall, we solved this issue kind of by explicitly telling players that they have to read, but that's not a very good solution. The main problem is that it's not actually clear when you're making a game what exactly you're doing when you're playing it. Let me give you a great example. I have noticed that when it comes to Bethesda games, people either love them or find them to be depressing oceans of meaningless, shallow nonsense. Again, with my weird brain, I fell into the second category until I discovered what I believe is the motivational frame for these games, at which point I learned to love them. The frame is as follows. I start with an awareness of my in-game identity, my own personal sense of self in the world. I then ask myself, what am I interested in? And I simply follow that interest. Whatever I choose, I will then be given feedback from the game that reinforces and strengthens that identity. Interested in magic? You'll start getting magical items, and if you keep going, you'll eventually become the Archmage of Skyrim. In other words, Bethesda games, in my opinion, are best understood as identity builders. This is actually in direct contrast to the reason many people play games, which is for a strong central motivation. These two groups of people do not understand one another. If you mention this motive to fans of Bethesda games, they'll often tell you that the brilliant thing about games like Skyrim is that if you want to save the world, you could do that by following the main quest. Well, no. Let me confidently speak for everyone who doesn't like these games. If you can choose to do something or not, it doesn't matter. Every good story starts with a problem that compels the protagonist into action. Feeling that compulsion is what these players are after, and ironically, I think the emotional need here is to lose yourself in something larger. It's actually about transcending identity, not building an identity. You see, saving the world and being the savior of the world are two radically different things. If you're one of these people and you play a Bethesda game, you'll just bounce off it, because Bethesda doesn't tell you this. You either just get it or you don't. On some level, I don't blame them, because that's a hard thing to communicate, but I don't see a way around this. You are building an experience. What is that experience? Well, fucking tell me, otherwise I won't be able to enjoy it. Here's the crux of the issue. The state of the industry punishes open-mindedness because most games are not self-conscious, and therefore they cannot lead you into how to enjoy them. Instead, you must not be open-minded, but rather simply be part of this weird, implicit, genre-based conversation about how to play these games. I submit to you that if we are going to move forward as an industry, we have to do better than that. But there's an even deeper problem that I'll get into in the next video, so make sure you subscribe for part 2. I hope you enjoyed the video and that it didn't piss you off. In the past, I've tried to stay positive with my videos, but the truth is there's only so much you can say without bringing in a little criticism. And I'm realizing that if I'm going to make more content, I have to be a little more honest. I love my industry, but I'm also a cranky fuck. So if your brain works like my brain, please like, subscribe, share, and tell me what you think of all this in the comments below. I might try making more of this kind of content, so if you liked it, please do say so. Until next time, take care.